And so we have Larson here to do a presentation on mental health in times of uncertainty. Larson is with Midcoast Family Services.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Larson, as Miss Melanie said. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I see some people are still kind of going in and out, but I'm just going to start sharing my screen. Okay, so mental health in times of uncertainty. The presentation today was prepared with COVID kind of in mind, and a lot of the things that I'll be referencing are mental health in the last year, so mental health during the pandemic and during isolation. But a lot of the strategies and tips and information in this presentation can also be applied to other times in our lives that we're facing fear and uncertainty. So speaking of mental health, for people with anxiety or ADHD, it can kind of be comforting to be able to know what to expect out of presentations and know what's coming next. So we'll be talking about how and why COVID has affected mental health, the signs and common mental health issues, mental health concerns specific to college students, unhealthy coping mechanisms, healthy coping mechanisms, the power of habits, and then just some resources at your school and in the community. So now that you kind of know what to expect, I hope that calms some nerves and you guys can just focus on the presentation. So how has COVID-19 affected mental health? Anxiety and depressive disorder have increased since spring 2019. So just in a year span, anxiety has increased from 8.1% to 25.5%. And that is a huge increase in just a year. And they now know that that was largely in part to COVID-19. Along with those two, there's been increased reports of substance abuse and suicidal ideation. And the number of people who considered suicide within the 30 days before the survey, it was highest for those aged 18 to 24, minority and racial ethnic groups, adult caregivers, so those who have adult parents or adult grandparents who they have to take care of, and then essential workers. So all four of these points are common characteristics in the college population. And so we kind of see that college students are really, really affected negatively by COVID-19 in terms of mental health. So how has COVID-19 affected mental health resources? So this is actually kind of sad because in a time that people need more support and need more help, resources were kind of lacking at the time. So towards the beginning of the lockdowns, 67% of people had difficulty with counseling or psychotherapy in quarantine. And this could be due to just their appointments being canceled or lack of availability of counselors or transitioning to telehealth and doing things virtually. Because a lot of people, even if they were able to meet their therapist online, if they live with roommates or if they live with their family members, they could be uncomfortable having a productive counseling session because they might not be able to talk about what they want to talk about, being in hearing distance of people who maybe they would want to bring up in their sessions. And then 30% less access to mental health medications. At the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of general physicians' offices weren't open, and for mental health medications, a lot of the time you'll need new prescriptions pretty often, and so people weren't able to get those. And then 78% reported less access to mental health resources at school, and then 75% at work. Since things have been reopening and transitioning to virtual, these numbers have gotten a lot better. So why has COVID-19 negatively affected mental health? You can just go ahead and you can unmute yourself or put in the chat why you think that mental health was so negatively affected during COVID-19. Cooped up in the house for so long. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, humans are social and we can't be social right now. Someone just messaged me that, definitely. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and move on. If I see more things in the chat, I'll read them. But so you mentioned some of these. Why has COVID-19 negatively affected mental health? Stress of uncertainty. So towards the beginning, we didn't really know what this virus was or how long our lives would be altered. An altered daily routine. So a lot of people kind of had to all of a sudden just transition from being out of the house all day and going to the gym and going to work or going to school, and then all of a sudden just being home for most of the week. And then financial worries or loss of income. So a lot of people either lost their jobs or just experienced less income during COVID, and that can obviously be a huge stressor on mental health. And then social isolation. I know someone mentioned that. Social isolation can be really, really detrimental to mental health. And then sickness. So even if you didn't get sick, you probably know someone who did, someone that you cared about, or you've just seen the news and you've seen so many cases, and it can be really disheartening to see. And along with that, you can be overwhelmed by the negative news or misinformation. For a while, it just seemed like there wasn't really any new news about vaccines or when those were going to be ready. And so there was just more and more negative news. And it really took a toll on people to see that so much every day in the media. And then loss of self-care strategies. So a lot of the time when we think of self-care strategies, we think of taking a bubble bath or doing skincare. But for a lot of people, their self-care was things like going to the gym every day or going out to dinner once a week. But then restaurants and gyms closed down. And so people lost their self-care strategies in a time where they really needed those self-care strategies. And then loneliness. So loneliness is kind of different from social isolation because even people who live with roommates or live with family can still feel lonely because they don't get to see their regular support system. And then, of course, unhealthy coping mechanisms, which we're going to go over in detail in a minute, and adapting to new routines and expectations. So, if you were doing school in person and then had to switch to online all of a sudden, you might still have the same assignments and the same expectations in class, and you kind of have to rethink how you're going to do everything because that's a huge change, and you have to just be patient with yourself. And then, of course, grief, we know negatively impacts mental health. So it's important to go over the signs of common mental health issues, the ones that occurred more during COVID-19. So you can either, see this in yourself or in other people to know whether or not you should reach out for help or encourage someone you love to reach out for help. So the signs of depression, feeling of sadness or emptiness, loss of interest in activities and hobbies, irregular sleeping patterns. This could be sleeping more than usual or sleeping less than usual, but with depression, it's more common that people sleep more than usual. And then fatigue, being easily frustrated, feelings of guilt, trouble concentrating, suicidal thoughts, and then headaches or other physical issues. So the signs of anxiety. Anxiety really shows up in physical ways for a lot of people. So it might not be as obvious that it's anxiety because it's not as much of a mental thing the way that it shows up and manifests in people anyway. So nervousness, sense of danger, worry, increased heart rate, ventilation, sweating, feeling weak, trouble concentrating, irregular sleeping patterns, and GI issues. So then the signs of substance abuse. There's a lot of physical changes, weight, changes in hygiene patterns, skin issues, irregular sleeping. And then there's a lot of behavioral issues that you can kind of notice in people as they develop a substance abuse issue, such as irritability, changes in personality, change in support system, or changes in who that person chooses to hang out with and spend their time with, depression, change in priorities, and then increased risk-taking behaviors or criminal behaviors. So then some unhealthy coping mechanisms. We all know that alcohol is not a healthy coping mechanism, and long-term use can not only cause anxiety and depression, but worsen anxiety and depression if it's already present, which is kind of the last thing you would want when you're facing mental health issues. And then of course, like marijuana, not only is it illegal, but it impacts your cognitive function, which in a time where people are adjusting to doing things from home, that can be really difficult. So some more unhealthy coping mechanisms that aren't substances, fighting, either physical or emotional, hurting people or property, self-harm, overeating and oversleeping, and then avoiding responsibilities. So now something happier. What are healthy coping mechanisms? So what are some healthy coping mechanisms you guys have? You know, what has gotten you through the last year? What have you done in the last year to keep your spirits up? Again, you can unmute yourself or put it in the chat, whichever's easier.
Sometimes just going for a walk.
Going for a walk, definitely, yeah. Any kind of like physical activity. I see someone else said work out, and then someone else said I like to read or listen to a podcast. Yeah, definitely. Just focusing on something else, something positive. Walking your dogs. Yeah, for sure. Playing soccer. Yeah, any kind of physical activity is great for mental health. All right, there might be more in the chat in a minute, but I'm gonna move on. So you guys mentioned a lot of these. So getting enough sleep, definitely a lot of us don't really get a lot of sleep. We don't get enough sleep, I'm sure. And it's kind of unfortunate because as I mentioned, you know, irregular sleeping patterns is a symptom of a lot of mental health issues. And so the thing that can help your mental health is also kind of hindered by your mental health. And then physical activity. So a lot of you guys mentioned that that's kind of your self-care strategy is physical activity. So this doesn't have to mean going to the gym for 2 hours and lifting weights. It can be as simple as going on a 20-minute walk with your dog or just getting outside for a little bit. And then healthy eating. This means something different to everyone. You know, everyone kind of has a different definition of healthy eating, but something we all should be doing more of is drinking more water. You know, it's great for our body's function and our organs function, and specifically, you know, the brain is an organ, so it's great for brain function as well. And then avoiding drugs and alcohol, limiting the amount of news info consumed. So not only limiting the amount of news info you consume daily, but trying to look at news outlets that are also talking about the positive things. Specifically, if we're talking about COVID-19, the positive news, you know, oh, this many people were vaccinated today. There's less cases in our community or whatever it is, trying to take in that positive info. And then social support. So, you know, whoever it is that's your support system, making sure to connect with them every day, whether it's FaceTime or calling them or texting them, however you like to communicate. Relaxation exercises. So like the one to the side here, it just seems like a simple breathing exercise, but it really can be grounding, especially for people who are battling anxiety. And then other relaxation techniques like meditation. There are really, really great apps for meditation out there, and a lot of them are free. And then things like yoga or Tai Chi can incorporate some movement and some exercise into your relaxation techniques. And then developing a self-care strategy. So if you're one of those people who went to the gym for your stress relief or for your self-care, but you're not comfortable doing that now, developing a new activity, learning a new hobby that you can do at home. And then, of course, journaling. A lot of people aren't super into journaling. It doesn't work for everyone. But I know that some people do like journaling now that it's easier to just do off of your phone, just typing it into a notes app. That's a type of journaling. So then some healthy coping mechanisms that require maybe some cost or just some extra support, you can't do on your own. So things like therapy, support groups, there's ones on Zoom, and then treatment or intervention if that's something you feel like you need, and then medication. So the power of habits and routines. Daily routines result in better sleep and less stress. So some things that you should always incorporate into your daily routine, if you can, physical activity, regular balanced meals, whatever that means to you, setting realistic work or study goals. So some people, maybe they've never studied at home before, they always study at the library, and then all of a sudden they couldn't do that. I think the library's open now, but before, last year, if they couldn't study at the library, maybe they just weren't being as productive at home. And you just kind of have to realize that, okay, I need to reset these goals. I need to give myself different expectations now. Just being patient with yourself, really. And then lastly, connecting with a loved one as part of your daily routine. So making sure to connect with people every day. So looking forward to the future. So like we talked about, looking at the positive side of the news and looking at positive information that's now out. So most Americans will be vaccinated by the end of the summer. There's sort of a sense of normalcy slowly returning. So we see that because a few days ago, I don't know if you saw, the CDC said that if people are vaccinated, they can now see each other without masks, as long as everyone in that room is now vaccinated, because they're all protected, which is really great. We're kind of seeing like, oh, we will get back to normal. And recovering from an illness takes time. So this is true also for mental illnesses, even as we get back to our normal routines and our normal life. If you were suffering from a mental illness because of COVID, that is still going to take time for you to go back to feeling normal again. But social interaction positively affects mental health and feelings of isolation. So as we go back to normal, that will only help us. So then just some resources. Online, there's a lot of free resources, telehealth, teletherapy. There's hotlines and chat features and, tips and articles. SAMHSA is a really good resource for that. Your school has a counseling department that offers counseling for students. I put the actual link there, but I'm pretty sure you could find it pretty easily. Just going to victoriacollege.edu, and it's really easy to find the counseling services page. And then in the community, Gulf Bend Center has a crisis line, and then there are other therapy and mental health services depending on your needs and what you can afford in your insurance. Here are my resources. So while you guys are thinking of any questions, I'm going to go ahead and put a little survey in the chat. And if you could just fill that out while you're thinking of any questions, and then put your questions in the chat or let me know if you have any. All right, so I put it in the chat. You should be able to open it and fill it out. And again, my name was Larson. That's one of the questions on there.
So yes, does anybody have any questions about the presentation or maybe how to locate the counseling? I can actually share my screen and show how to find it on our website. Just a sec. Okay, so one of the fastest ways is by students, advising and counseling, and then counseling services. And it has my contact information of how to get a hold of me. And I went ahead and put that in the chat as well. Larson, do you want to talk about any of the other departments at Midcoast Family Services?
Yeah, sure. So I'm from the youth department, so we mostly work with elementary, junior high, and high school, and we do drug prevention and underage drinking prevention, and we teach a lot about like healthy choices and peer pressure, things like that. Mostly we do presentations or small groups. And then we have the Star Family Services. So they work kind of closely with us. They go into the schools and they do one-on-one counseling, which is really great because we can't do one-on-one, but they do, and they're really great. And then we have the homeless department. So they do rent assistance and help they help our homeless population find places to stay and find resources to be able to give them, everything that they need. And then we have our shelter, which is it's back and it's been back for a few months now. They are now letting people come in. They just have reduced capacity right now. But it's our domestic violence shelter, which they do really, really great work. And then we have our thrift store, which there's two thrift stores, one downtown and then one over on Sam Houston.
Yes,
Do any of the shelters accept volunteers?
Yes, I can. I'm not entirely sure if they're accepting volunteers right now. My organization is very, very strict about the COVID guidelines, which I'm really grateful for. So I'm not entirely sure if they're accepting volunteers right now, but we normally do accept volunteers, yes.
So yes, Midcoast definitely has a lot of good departments and sources or resources to provide to our community. Does anybody have any specific questions about mental health or anything like that?
Do we have mental health counseling at VC on campus?
Yes, so I'm actually a licensed counselor as well as an academic advisor. So I do provide counseling. Some of it may be virtual, but there are some face-to-face options. And if you go to the link that's in the chat, it has my email, my phone number, but it also has the directions on how to schedule an appointment. You can actually schedule it through Navigate like you would for an advising appointment or financial aid, or just by directly emailing me.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you for the question.
One more quick question. I know that this actual thing was meant for Victoria College, but the women's shelter, the domestic abuse shelter, is that open to the general public, like anyone that's getting abused?
Yeah, so if you have someone that you know who, here, I'm gonna go ahead and put my email in the chat and you can send me an email so you don't have to disclose any information here. And I can connect you to Elizabeth, who is our director over there at the shelter.
Thank you so much.
And Midcoast covers 7 counties, or how many counties is it?
Yeah. So we cover all the surrounding counties. Goliad, Gonzales. We go all the way out to Gonzales. That's our farthest one. Goliad, Gonzales, DeWitt, Lavaca. Where else do we go? We go Yoakum. Think of where else we go. Ganado, Bloomington. All the kind of rural, smaller schools. We go out there.
So what are some things that we can do as students when confronted with another student or peer that is in need of mental health care?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to go?
Oh, no, no. I mean, they'll probably be referred to you, so you can go ahead and answer it.
So it can just depend on the situation. If you feel comfortable talking with the student to let them know about resources available, or there is actually a form that is located on the victoriacollege.edu website, and it allows you to put that you're concerned about a student, and then somebody will reach out to that student. And I can put that form in the chat box as well. Or if you had a trusted faculty member, you could let them know and they may be able to fill out the form. You could come and talk to me about it. So my office is located in the advising and counseling services in the student services building. I'm not always working from campus. That's why I still just have some virtual, but emailing me or calling me is the best way to get a hold of me.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes, thank you for your questions. Anybody else have any other questions that they have about VC counseling services or for Midcoast? And I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.